I was 13 years old, and me and my friends, we had like a slumber party, and I remember we got quite drunk on Bacardi Breezers, like teenage stuff. And then I remember later on in the evening I was lying somewhere. A few of my guy friends started touching me. They like put their fingers inside me, and I just didn't really know how to stop it. The next day, they came up to me saying stuff like, "Oh, you're such a whore. Yeah, maybe you don't remember, but we actually also fucked you last night." I remember just kind of laughing it off a little bit, like, you know, we're friends. Like, it's completely fine. I'm fine. We're having some, you know, experimentation. Like, we tease each other. But I think it was just the kind of, you know, sexual experimentation that just went very wrong. Sex ed classes, we just had, you know, just kind of very practical stuff. We never had conversations about consent, and I think that's why in my case it went wrong, like not just once, but so many times. You know, having a friend like touch you while you're asleep, thinking that I wanted that or that I was fine with that. Because as kids, like, you're left alone with that, and you're not getting any guidance on, you know, what's okay, what's not okay, how you can find out. For a long time I normalized what happened. It's just part of being a teenager, and it's part of growing up. We have this idea of violating someone's consent, that it's, I don't know, aggression, like usually by a stranger. Don't feel like you have to feel a certain way about a bad experience. Don't feel that you should actually feel fine about it, that it wasn't that bad. Boundaries of where consent starts and where it ends are so different for everyone. Taking part in this survey will show there are so many different kinds of violation of someone's consent. Someone can freeze and not know how to say no. In my situation, all the people that were involved, I think, were genuinely good people who didn't think they were doing anything wrong. And I think they hadn't been given enough tools and enough knowledge to know from the outset what's right and what's wrong. If they had been given more tools, I think they would never have done that because they didn't want to do anything wrong. I'm really sure in my heart that that's true.